There is something to be said about the peace of a storm raging in the sky above a city. The steady drum of the rain as it beats against the roof tiles above your head. The whistling of the wind as it passes through the trees just beyond the glass pane of your window. The deafening crack of thunder and the rumbling of the earth as bolts of lightning dance across the sky before they crash down to earth. I welcomed the storm with open arms on this night of all nights. The rain would cleanse the streets of the blood and filth and, with it, what had been done. The rivers and streams would run red with the gore and blood of 1,000 corpses. This day had been the worst of any day in all my life. To feel, you must first understand. The masses rose up in defiance of the church and what they had done. Crowds filled the streets and bashed against each other like waves in an unending sea. Their 1,000 torches were as bright as the light of the sun. Claw and steel and gunpowder cut them down by the hundreds. A veil of black smoke consumed the sky as the city burned beneath it. Plumes of smoke seemed to rise from every corner as the roars of something awful pierced the silence. The setting sun brought with it a quiet I hadn't known in days. Those precious moments seemed to hint at an end to this. And yet, the madness seemed to continue well into the night. The screams of men and women alike filled the air every moment as the city consumed itself under the dark veil of a moonless sky. The elderly and children had long since perished, their frail bodies unable to fight off the madness that lay within their own heads. They became the things we fear now. They are gone. Nothing can save them, not even God himself. He has forsaken us now. We delve too deep into that which we don't understand. The church promised they would save us from the plague of beasthood. Such a plague that rips you apart from the inside and twists your body into something that shouldn't exist in this world. I have seen them. Their shadows walk like men and even talk like them, but their bodies reveal them for what they are. Monsters. Their blood has stained my hands forever. I was like you once. I chose sides. I fought for what I thought was right. Open rebellion against the church was the right thing to do. They caused this with their experiments and their lies. They told us the plague was just a test every man must face. And now the world as I knew it was gone, reduced to nothing but blood and bone. They deserve to be slaughtered like cattle. Their cloaks and crosses did nothing to save them from the blades that slit their throats. They should have never delved deeper into the mines. What they found will haunt mankind forever. Blood. Blood was the start. They consumed it and twisted it to their will. Blood from a god does not transcend you to a plane of existence beyond your own. It turns you into a monster like those that roam the streets now. They knew what would come. The old texts of a bygone era told what would happen if they dared embrace their childish curiosities. The church didn't heed the words of those who came before us. They challenged it, presented it as a means to an end. This was the next step for mankind, to transcend past our own level of conscience. It was all a lie. They did this to the city and those who dwelled inside its walls. The streets I had once roamed were now nothing more than a field of blood. The roads and paths I used to walk were stained red with the lives of people I once knew. Now that night has fallen, the time has come. There are others like me who have accepted the fate that has fallen to us. We must purge the world of this disease like those who came before. Fire cleanses all. Mankind will survive past this night if we only fulfill our duty. The storm's hold on the city is tightening by the second. It will cover our advance into the homes and places these beasts rest. We will cull them from the city under the cover of rain and thunder. The smell of iron and death will become nothing more than a warning to those who hide in the shadows. They will know us for what we are and what we bring. Death to those that are infected with the plague of beasthood. And yet, something is itching at the back of my brain. The beast's blood seems to call to me like a whisper. Something that is nothing more than a thought at most. Its itch is so deep that my fingers can't reach it no matter how hard I scratch my scalp. It is all over my body and my clothes from the hours before. The beasts seem to bleed more than an ordinary man. My clothes smell of the blood and rot that comes from within their bodies. The smell that brings me such a sense of euphoria that I can almost taste it. The knock on my door pulls me from the moment. The time has come. The plague of beasthood will be cold. Blood will flow through the streets as it never has before. We are no longer men. We are no longer fathers or sons. We are hunters, for the night is long and full of terrors. I'm stuck in my room. I don't know how to get out. Earlier today, it all escalated so quickly. Drink. The mug clanked on the table, small drops of black liquid spilling out and across the pale skin of the woman standing across from me. Coffee? I asked softly, my eyes flipping between her and the beverage. Yes. Coffee. She barked out, motioning towards the mug and then scooting it closer to me. Mom says dash. I stopped short, her eyes lit with a fire deep inside. She wasn't happy with my protest. Okay. I whimpered, grabbing the mug and taking a drink, the hot liquid rolling down my throat. Can I go use the bathroom? Pondering, the woman stared me down and I lowered my head, waiting for the release as she finally said yes, and I jumped up, probably a little too quickly. The bathroom door creaked and groaned as I opened and closed it behind me, turning the lock on the knob before looking in the mirror. My eyes drifted to the little sticker in the bottom right corner of the mirror. Kayla's 10th birthday. In big letters decorated that corner. That day had been a fantastic day. 2 years ago, nearly to the day, and it hadn't gotten anything but worse since then. I slipped out of my shirt, watching as two black and furry wings flopped out, raising up slightly and resting in a half-open position. They budged when I strained, slightly moving up and down no more than a couple of inches, but they were moving more and more each day. The cabinet to the left of the mirror stared me down. I knew I wasn't supposed to be in it. I knew what was in it, but yet I still had the urge. My hand reached out, the knock cold on my fingertips, and a heavy knock startled me back. Are you done yet? Aggression was clear, and it startled me some, but I choked back a response of not yet. A groan and a huff later, I heard heavy footsteps receding, back to the kitchen I assumed. My eyes hit the floor. I couldn't do this much longer. Mom and Dad don't know what's going on and they're away right now. They have no clue. This demon has me strapped in my home. The coffee she keeps fueling me with is only making my wings grow faster, larger, healthier. It helps, sure, but it gives her the option of controlling me. Once I have consumed enough of her liquid, I'm hers to keep for eternity. Mom thought she was hiring a reputable babysitter, but it's clear she didn't. The door splintered, and the woman's hand stuck through the door before I could do anything, unlocked the knob and slammed open the door. You're done, now, she yelled, her teeth sharpened up and her face distorted. I started crying, running beside her and up to my room, locking the door behind me and shoving my dresser up against the door. It's been 5 hours now, and she's still beating on the door yelling at me to let her in. I don't know how much longer my parents are going to be, and I don't know how much longer the spell will hold. The door, although it's enchanted, is still only a door, and with every passing minute it seems to get weaker and weaker. I fear that this might be the end. These events start with me and two of my friends Bernard and Hector coming back from a long weekend at the Cape Cod for any non-New Englanders here. Me and my buddies grew up with each other in Worcester, Massachusetts, and once college came around we all kinda split up. Hector moved to Providence, Rhode Island, and Bernard was just always busy with school while I was busy working in the trades. We decided to find a time where all of us weren't busy and ended up renting a house out in Yarmouth for the Memorial Day weekend to just chill and hit the beach. After a great weekend of getting drunk and partying like we used to, it was time to head home. We took my car there, which was perfect for the beach. My Volvo C70 convertible. After packing all our bags in the car, we start driving back around 9 or 9:30 p.m. on Monday back to Providence to drop off Hector. To beat the traffic, I hopped off I-495 onto Route 44 going through Taunton and was just going to follow that all the way to Providence. It was getting late, must have been around 10:30-ish at this point, and was pitch black outside, no moon or stars in sight tonight. As we were driving just passing Taunton about 3 or 4 miles passing the city limits, we see him. A dirty-looking, fiery, long red-haired and red-bearded looking hobo wearing a red flannel, filthy blue jeans and a giant backpack on his back, holding his thumb out. As we pass him, I look over to my buddies and say nobody else is gonna be on this road for miles, and he's out in the middle of nowhere, we might as well help him out. I say, shit, that he looks sketchy, dude, said Bernard. Yeah, I'm not trying to sit back here with him. Let's just go home, I'm tired as shit. Said Hector. All right, whatever, I'm stopping for gas at the next gas station though. I'm almost on E. We drive for about another 2 miles until we see the next gas station, and I fill up my tank and go inside and grab some snacks with my friends. Getting back in the car, I put my key in the ignition, and just our luck, my shitting battery is dead. I knew I should have changed the battery before this trip. I was just being lazy and not even consider it being a problem. As we all stand outside my car trying to figure out what to do and who to call to get a jump, we see the hitchhiker walking up to us. There's no way this guy caught up with us this fast. It's impossible. Even if he fully sprinted for the 2 miles when we first passed him, there's no shitting way this guy could have caught up with us. Why you boys need a jump? This is the first thing he said to us in a gravely smoker's voice. How would he know we needed a jump in the first place? We were just 3 kids standing outside at the gas pump, and there's no way he would know that if there was a problem, it was a dead battery. Bernard spoke up. The battery's dead. Don't suppose you can help us? Actually, I can, said the hitchhiker as he reached into his giant backpack and pulled out a jump pack. Shit, thanks man, you're a lifesaver. I said. I popped the hood and he hooked up the cables, turned on the jump pack, and I started my car right up. Thanks man, really appreciate it, we gotta get home now, said Hector with a kind of thanks dude, now get the shit out of here tone. Hey C, can you boys do me a favor? I just need a ride to Rehoboth. Why, you can just drop me off once we get a little bit past the town line and I'll walk the rest of the way. I see that you're driving that way anyway, and I really need the help right now, boys, said the hitchhiker. I looked at my friends knowing that we pretty much don't have a choice. I mean, as weird as this guy seems, he did just help us, and he doesn't seem dangerous. Sure, he smells like weak old piss, but a 10-minute ride into a town we were already passing through seems like the least we can do for helping us out. Yeah, sure man, hop in, I say. Oh T, thank you man, I really needed this, the hitchhiker said with a large toothy grin revealing his dark yellow teeth and puffy bright red gums. He hopped in the back seat with Hector, who was looking very visibly uncomfortable. Bernard rode shotgun and I hopped back in the driver's seat and took off from the gas station back into the pitch black night. Pulling off from the gas station, we start driving with the hitchhiker just staring out the window, not saying a word. It was deathly silent in the car because for some reason my radio wasn't picking up any channels, which was weird cause it's not like we were out in the boonies. Sure, it was quiet and not a lot of houses around, but not even a local station. Also broke my AUX cord, so we couldn't even plug in a phone to listen to music that way. After about 5 minutes of silent driving, Hector tries to make conversation with the hitchhiker. So man, where you from? No response from the hitchhiker. You from around here? Still no response. Yo, can you hear me, man? The hitchhiker breaks out in an ear-piercing laughter. It took us all by shock and I lost control of the wheel momentarily from the sudden outburst. The laugh was so loud and encompassing that you could barely hear anyone or anything else. Bernard was holding his hands over his ears, screaming "What the hell?" which was barely audible over the laughter. I was cringing and covering my right ear with my hand as my left was holding onto the wheel, and Hector was screaming something that wasn't audible to me at the hitchhiker and reached out to grab him. When he put a hand on his shoulder, the hitchhiker grabbed Hector's hand, turned his head to look at Hector with wide eyes, pulled out a knife from his pocket and stabbed Hector 3 times in the chest. Me and Bernard are staring in awe at what we just saw from the front seat, and as I try to pull over and slamming on the brakes, the hitchhiker lunges at me and grabs the wheel, still screeching his crazy laugh. He yanked the wheel to the right, going directly into the woods, and even though I was slamming on the brakes and tugging back at the wheel, it still wasn't good enough to avoid the tree. I slammed my head on the steering wheel in the crash and was knocked unconscious for a few seconds. When I looked around, the front end of the car was smashed in and smoking. The airbags were deployed. Bernard was bleeding from his head just like I was, and Hector was on the floor in the back, clutching his chest, struggling to breathe with blood coming from his mouth. All this with no sign of the hitchhiker. I shake Bernard, trying to get him out of his daze, and as I'm shaking him, I look through the passenger window next to him, and for a split second, I saw the hitchhiker's face in the window, smiling from the outside. I jumped back in fear and quickly wiped the sweat and blood from my forehead wound out of my eyes, and once I did, the hitchhiker was gone from the window. I frantically looked around, seeing where he could have gone, and jumped out of the car with a sudden burst of adrenaline. I run around all over the car in the immediate area, and the hitchhiker is nowhere in sight. Bernard, now coming out of his daze, opens his door and falls out. Running to his side, I help him to his feet. "Hector!" I screamed in the back seat. "Hector, are you okay, bro?" I screamed, "Help me," he said, gurgling up more blood onto his chin. "Help me grab him out." Bernard screamed, still obviously out of it. Me and Bernard pull Hector from out of the wreckage and lay him up against a tree. Bernard calls the cops, screaming to get an ambulance to us, and that some homeless guy stabbed our friend and crashed our car. The police and ambulance showed up after 5 minutes. I guess we were lucky that we were so close to Rehoboth, or else Hector might not have made it. As 2 EMTs rushed Hector on the stretcher into the ambulance, 2 other EMTs showed up in another ambulance and tended to mine and Bernard's injuries. The police started asking me and Bernard questions about what happened and how our friend got stabbed. When we explained the whole situation and that a red-headed homeless guy stabbed Hector and crashed my car, the cops got wide-eyed and looked at each other awkwardly. They put away their notepads and told us they would look into it. "What? What do you mean you'll look into it? The shitting guy is still out there in the woods or around here somewhere. He didn't just shitting disappear." Bernard said, "We have other units looking right now, son, trust me." "Now go with the EMTs, they want to take a closer look at both of you," said one of the younger cops. "What do you mean you didn't even call anything in?" I chimed in. "Go now, kid, we'll take care of it." The younger cop's partner said me and Bernard were quickly shuffled into the ambulance and brought to the hospital. Me and Bernard both knew that something was up. The cops knew something we didn't and were doing nothing to try and find this guy. For what reason, I'm still not sure. It's a year later now, and all of us are still shaken up about this. Hector healed up fine. Bernard moved across the country to the West Coast, and I'm still living in Worcester. The police never followed up with us or tried to ask us more questions about the stabbing or the hitchhiker. I'm surprised they never even tried to pin it on me or Bernard. They just never got back to us and swept it under the rug basically, but that's neither here nor there. Oh, and another thing, to this day, sometimes when I'm driving, I'll get a feeling I'm being watched and look over to my passenger window and see the hitchhiker's face staring back at me, smiling his impossibly wide smile. I live on the outer edge of a small, plains area farming town. Not many people, not many things to do, but it works great since the oil place I work for is close by. Tonight at about 9 p.m., I got a voicemail from the county reverse 911 that genuinely scared me. Not a tornado warning or any kind of severe weather alert like it usually is. It was something else entirely. The automated message transcription my phone made said a message from county police. Go indoors and do not go outside. Close and lock all doors and windows. Shut all blinds. There is a threat to your safety. Call 911 if there is someone on your property that you do not know. Do not interact with anyone on your property that you do not know. If you are traveling, do not return home. This is not a test. There is a threat to your safety. This message made me instantly get that oh shit, sinking feeling in my stomach. Imagining for 10 seconds what could possibly be outside was scary enough that I did close and lock everything. About 30 minutes later, the power cut, and the only thing alive was the rapid beeping of the UPS system I hooked to my satellite modem and the green glow of the modem's power light. I whipped out the giant-ass flashlight my police officer friend Jim gave me and went to reset the breaker. The breaker didn't pop. Everything was set exactly as it's supposed to be. That's when I realized it might not just be my house that has no power. I had zero cell service, and the only remaining things with any power were my flashlight, the modem, the battery system, a small battery-powered lantern I found, and my laptop. Only things with batteries. I made the real bold and stupid decision to peek outside the blinds towards the rest of town to see if there was anything lit up out there. Why not? If I did it quickly, should be an issue, right? I regret doing that. It was almost just light enough to see the outline of things around. When I took a look towards town, I first noticed that the area the town center is in, sorta like where all the businesses are lined up for non-small town people, was dead. The only light was coming from one building, as though a generator was keeping their porch lights alive for some reason. But then I noticed, off in the distance 200 or so feet away from my house, just barely visible, a person, or at least something like a person. Someone just kinda standing out in the field looking toward the road. But as I tried to figure out who it was, I noticed that it started turning my way, followed by it walking my way as well. As soon as I noticed it moving, I jumped back from the blinds and ducked. I had to work up the guts to even move away and go back to the room I was keeping lit up. Since then, I've heard knocking at the front and back door. But not like the regular knocking people do, where they knock a couple of times then give up and leave. This has been like someone smacking the door as hard as possible a few times every couple of minutes, then running back around to try the other. I genuinely do not know what's out there or what they want, but this has been going on for over 2 hours now. I've been hiding under my desk with an old rusted crowbar thing I took off the ground at work a few days ago, hoping whoever it is doesn't try to brute force their way in, and that if they do they'll be stupid enough to not check under the desk before I whack its knees. I'm hoping the router's battery system stays alive long enough for this to upload. I've been charging my phone with my laptop and sending things through email and the web using the satellite modem. If I stop responding to this, it's likely because the modem finally died out. The county website isn't even online for me to check if there's been an all clear, and I have no service to call for help with. Hopefully one of the officers comes by patrolling and arrests whoever or whatever is outside my house. They'd be sending the cops outright, given the message they sent? Or are they hiding too?